Well, I think that about covers it. Lisa, how are we going to sign the books? Like giving out numbers or something? Now you know everything. That is so scary because that's exactly how it happened. But I just remembered it from my point of view. I'm running along like a giant bird and I hit this thing and started screeching and went down the dome. That's one version. Well, luckily I have several other versions because I am the writer. And I want to thank this whole crew here at U of M and the Curlin crew. It's just like, let's give them another round of applause. And you may not know it, but that's the most authentic pronunciation of Scieszka you'll ever hear. I mean, ours is the Americanized version. That's why we brought Merrick in for this. That and his global knowledge of the Big Bang. Like, and where he got that, I'm still a little shaken. But fortunately, I brought along a few things to show you because people have a lot of questions. And this, I kind of loved making this title very fancy like this. I'll just let you appreciate the fanciness for a minute. Because otherwise, I thought I would bring along just a variation of what I show to kids, because they have the very same questions that adults have, but they're just willing to ask them. Like, how old are you? What kind of car do you drive? How much money do you make? Who's your favorite brother? Came up today. Which one do you not like the most? And I was over in the UK a few months ago, and I got the one that scared me the most ever. It just stopped me dead in my tracks. And it was the first question. Usually when kids are just asking, like, how long does it take to write a book? And this little girl said, in her cute London accent, have you ever done anything that you really regretted? It's like, and I said, I thought up a good answer. I just said, yes. Yes, I have. I really have. Next question, please. So, this very serious lecture is going to cover all of that. And I'm kind of honored to be here because Dr. Chase's mission is kind of the same as mine, which was to engage kids in writing and to make them writers and readers. It's kind of how you become both of those things. It goes both ways. Merrick knows the science. He'll explain it later. It has to do with the Big Bang and electromagnetic radiation. But I'll show you. So I'm this guy. This is like the very first book I published. Then Stinky Cheese Man came. Then Math Curse, Science First. See, you're getting just so much visual knowledge here. You don't even know what's happening. Time Warp Trio. And then here's where I get a lot of my ideas. These are stories about growing up with my 5 brothers. This is the transgressive part and enthusiastically taboo part, which you may have remembered. Just in case you forgot, I brought that up again. But here's where a lot of my stories come from. And in fact, this thing is called Knucklehead because that's what my dad called us all. And here we all are, the 6 Scieszka brothers. This is mom and dad, I think, pre-children. Yeah, they're looking very smiley, very svelte. And then look what happens. And in fact, and I illustrated this whole book with pictures that I have in my scrapbook, because I have a scrapbook. I'm the second oldest one and nicest one, you can see there. It goes Jim, John, Tom, Greg, Brian, sorry, and Jeff. So you can kind of see this sliding scale of parental involvement. Here's Jim and I, full suits, pocket handkerchiefs. Those are monogrammed pocket handkerchiefs. There's a little S in there. Tom's got a suit, but it's actually Jim's from a few years before. Greg's got a sweater. Brian's kind of got a coat. Jeff's got nothing. Number 6. He doesn't even have a haircut. Oh, and it's kind of nice. So Jim and I have full scrapbooks with all that stuff. Like we have those little baby bracelets. We have footprints. We've got every birthday card we ever got. And they're all in beautiful order. Tom and Greg have scrapbooks, but the stuff's just kind of dropped in there. Brian's got a shopping bag with some stuff. Half of it's just random stuff. And some macaroni. But the saddest is Jeff. As the littlest one, he kind of ran out of steam there, and he's got a little sandwich baggie with 4 pictures in it. And 2 of them he's not even in. It's kind of a group shot. My mom said, no, I think you're behind Brian. So what can we learn from this? I don't know, maybe don't be the 6th oldest. But you know what? This is where I think I started being transgressive and goofy or storytelling. Because in our house, it was just as you may know, a madhouse. We all fit in 10 years. Well, lots of people making that your poor mom face. It's just like, oh. But I do kind of feel bad, too, for my mom because we just wrestled all the time. That's like the one thing we loved to do. We'd like wake up and wrestle. We would go to breakfast and wrestle. We'd get in the car and wrestle. Like everything was a thing to wrestle about. And we just accidentally broke stuff. Like lamps, chairs, couches, walls. Greg. Sorry, Greg. Yeah, I don't know how we shouldn't get off on that. That's sad. But it was such a fun house to grow up in, but you had to have a talent if you were going to get fed. So, because we all sat together on one giant table, like the food would come out, and then you just had to do something to get your share. So Jim talked really fast. He became a lawyer too, which is kind of perfect. And he could just talk you out of anything. He could describe why you needed to give him that piece of chicken and why it made so much sense. And then I would just tell a joke and get people laughing and then grab the piece off Jeff's plate, and he didn't know. I don't even know what those other guys did. I didn't care because I'm the 2nd oldest. So that's how it works. But I also got transgressive because I grew up in the 60s. It wasn't all my fault. It was just like what I was absorbing. And I came very close to not being a reader or a writer. And that maybe God had a hand in this. She might have done that moment. Because here's what I was reading to learn how to read in school. Yeah. Fun with Dick and Jane. The least fun book I've ever read in my whole life. And I was in 1st grade reading this, and here's a page from Fun with Dick and Jane. Look, Jane. Look, comma, look, period. See Dick. C, O, C. See Dick. I remember even as a 1st grader going, what? Why? Why? First of all, who cares? Second of all, that took a lot of work to get to the end of that, and that's not fun. There's nothing fun about that. And then weirder, like you would read more, and they would talk about their mom and dad like, oh, mother, oh, father. It was just like, that was not our house. Our house looked like this. So this was my favorite book that I read at home. Go, dog, go. There was just different colored dogs driving around in cars, and then they have a party in a tree. It's like, that was a lot like our house. And I don't know quite what to tell you about this next one other than it like formed me. This says more than you'll ever need to know about John Scieszka. This was my favorite book, The Carrot Seed. And it's pretty direct. This little guy finds a carrot seed. He's going to plant it. Everyone tells him, you're an idiot. It's not going to work. It's not going to grow. Well, I guess they didn't say idiot. They just say it won't come up. And mom says it won't. Dad says it won't. Brother says it won't. He keeps watering it. He keeps raking it. They still say it's not going to come up. But then the last page is him wheeling off a giant carrot. I was going to call it something else. And I loved this page. There's no text on it because there doesn't need to be. And I thought it was always kind of cool that the guy, he doesn't even have a smug look on his face or anything. He's just looking. He knew it was going to come up. The end. So I thought, oh man, I think maybe that's where I started thinking, like, I'd like to write a story like that. Not like Fun with Dick and Jane. So this was me in about 5th grade. Yeah, thank you. I had some other pictures of me in Catholic school, but they're scary. Oh, this is one of the pictures that Jeff got. So like you, Jeff could count. He was little, but not stupid. And my mom's answer for this one was, oh yeah, I'm holding you in the kitchen. See? You can see her in silhouette in the back there. I don't think Jeff bought that. And this is filled with lovely stories like, sorry, Greg. Yeah. He was the little brother. And my mom kept making him play with us. And so we don't want Greg to play with us. And did you know it only takes like 7 pounds of pressure to break this little bone? We didn't know that. Until we started playing games. And I love one little guy at Murray today asked, like, how do you play that game that you wrote about in Leckerheim? This was so good. I didn't tell him about Ghost Rider, because that one kind of freaks out the teachers too, where we'd ride our bikes under the monkey bars, and then we'd grab onto the monkey bars and just let your bike go. Like a ghost is riding it. And then we thought of an even better game, Double Ghost Rider. 2 people ride under the monkey bars. Yeah, can you just see me telling this in school? Yeah, the teachers make faces like this, like, oh. And then the 2 bikes fight each other, like ghost wrestling. Then we thought of an even better game. Triple Ghost Rider. Yeah. That doesn't work so good because everyone crashes. But we did have another game we invented called Slaughter Ball. And it's just what you think it is. So you get 1 football, whole bunch of people, throw the football up in the air, and then whoever catches the ball gets slaughtered. And it's everyone else's job to slaughter that guy, which is an excellent game. It's not complicated, very active. And actually, this point is usually when the 3rd grade girls in the audience will just say, like, why? Why would you do that? It's just, and all the guys are like, because you get the ball. That's why. So one time we were playing slaughter ball with Greg, and he kind of got tangled up in the pile, and then we heard something go like, and Greg got up from the pile, and he was going like, oh. And then we thought, oh no, we better take him back to my mom. So we took him back home, and we said, sorry, Mom, I think we broke Greg. And luckily she was a nurse, so she said, yes, you broke his collarbone. We're going to have to get it fixed. And it's weird, like when you break your collarbone, you can't get a cast like your arm or your leg. You get these weird shoulder pads. So you almost look, well, back then, I think the technology is better now. But the pads then, you look like you were an NFL player. You're like walking around like this. So we ended up breaking Greg's collarbone, I think like 4 times. Maybe 5, a little accidentally. So every picture of him we have, he looks like this. Don't tell Greg I'm shoulder. Some people are horrified here, just going like, oh, sorry. It wasn't our fault. We told my mom, don't let Greg play with us. But that had repercussions for the rest of the family also. So here's what happened. This was me on picture day. I got a brand new coat, looking very spiffy. Next year, Tom got the coat for picture day. Accessorized it a little differently. The next year, it's supposed to go to Greg, but Greg had the weird pads, as you may remember. So he couldn't wear the coat, and we gave it to our neighbor, Bobby Ducharme. He lived down the street. But then the most tragic thing happened. Next year, when Jeff was going to get the coat, Bobby Ducharme had lost it. So Jeff had to wear this coat. And that's how bullying was invented. Starting with his brothers, who said, nice coat, Jeff. Which reminds us that this talk is all about being all of these things. So I studied a mess of stuff in school, and I was always reading, writing. I loved science. I was going to be a doctor for a while. Good thing I met my girlfriend, now wife, who told me, John, you'd make a horrible doctor. And I was like, what? I'm really good at science. And she said, no, yeah, but you hate sick people, and you don't like to go in hospitals at all. I was like, yeah, good point. So we moved from Michigan, where I grew up, to New York, and I got a master's in fiction writing from Columbia, which then entitled me to paint apartments and send fiction out and not have it accepted by anyone. And then after smelling a lot of oil paint, I just thought, I got to get another job. And I didn't even have socks. That's how poor I was. That's a detail I stole from Kate DiCamillo. She uses that in her... No, that's a terrible thing you use all the time. I thought I'd steal it, though. I was so poor, I didn't have socks. I had a potato for a pet. You say that too, right? I don't know.
But I'm going to use it.
Yeah, go ahead and use that. So I applied to teach elementary school because I thought I used to be an elementary school kid. My dad's a principal. This could work, right? Then I walked into the buzzsaw of elementary school teaching. But that's where I found my audience. They were just a little shorter than I thought. And here they were. Oh, I hope you're saying that about me and not cute Jason. That's when I had hair. And that was my second grade class that I started with, which was so much fun because then I got to read all this great children's literature and see why it worked. It's because it's great writing. And then I thought, this is what I should be writing. And then while I was there, I just brought all of my favorite writers to the kids and just kind of retold stories. Like, here's a great one I remember retelling to this class, The Metamorphosis. Guy wakes up one day, he's a bug, right? Actually, he wakes up from uneasy dreams and he's a bug. And second graders are the best audience because they were like, yes. That could happen. That could definitely happen. I told him some Borges, because I love Borges, the guys who just fool around with the form of storytelling. And I used to make up stories, like tell them, I live in the closet. I'm not right in the closet. I mean, obviously it goes in and there's tunnels and a lot of different rooms and stuff, and everybody's like, yeah, that could work. One of my other favorites, Don Quixote, which is all about being about a book. Because I always loved metafiction like that, because it calls attention to itself. In the last half of Don Quixote, he runs into the book Don Quixote, which is kind of great. And second graders just, again, go, yeah, that could happen. And then I also discovered books like this, like The Stupids Die. What a great title. Maybe the best ever. And what a great story. So the stupids, like their lights go out, so they think they've died. You have to look that one up. Tommy Unger, one of my favorite books of his, he also wrote The Three Robbers and just some beautiful books. Yeah, Crichter. And then this one is just crazy, bizarre nonsense. Here's the very first story. Bunny Bunsen Brittle goes fishing. He has no permit. Who cares? There are no fish. Which is just like, There's another one of a mole couple, like old Mr. and Mrs. Mole. Mr. Mole is blind, Mrs. Mole is crippled, but they don't care, they have each other. It's a little sweeter, but equally bizarre. So I took a year, I taught elementary school for 10 years, probably 5 or 6 years, second, third grade. Then I just took off a year and wrote and tried to publish stuff and got it rejected everywhere because people were frightened. I first got back form letters, but then I started getting back very personal letters. The form letters were like, oh, this is not quite right for us. But I sent them like stinky cheese stories, and they wrote back, Dear Mr. Skazazagawaka, please don't ever send us anything again. Right? And then I bought a pair of socks. I thought, I can do this, and I pulled them up. And this was one of the books I wrote, among others, and sent it out. And thank goodness, we got rejected for this like for a whole year. No one liked it. They thought kids wouldn't get it, too sophisticated. I don't think anyone used the word transgressive then, but that's what they meant. But I had been with kids, and I know kids love humor. Well, who doesn't? Adults like humor. You don't have to be lectured all the time. And in fact, that's how you learn things if you're entertained also. So I just kept sending it out because I had heard Dr. Seuss got rejected like 30 times, so 20 was nothing. And then I met the illustrator, which was great because then we sent the stuff out together, which is kind of unusual. But then we got rejected because people were creeped out by the artwork. Well, I mean, they might have a point. There's a little butt hanging out there, rat butt, some bunny ears, some secret sauce. We don't even know what that is. But that was published in 1989 and was the very first book. Someone finally took a chance on it. Well, that was my other favorite question I got from a little girl. A third grader said, now, when did you publish your first book? And I said, 1989. And she looked like, back in the 1900s? And I was like, yeah. Back in the 1900s, before you were born. Oh, it's just the 1900s. But luckily, this book was a success. It just took off. Teachers and librarians made people read it and buy it, which I loved. So we got to do this book also, the one that got most of the rejections. And this was just blatantly taking all of my favorite adult writers, like Borges and Kafka, or Lawrence Stern's Tristram Shandy, which is my favorite book, which is this bizarre book where the narration stops and starts and goes in circles. There's a blank page that says you shouldn't read this next page. So I just blatantly stole all of that, or no, creatively lifted it, I think we called that, and put it in Stinky. Or I tried to figure every possible way to subvert a narrative and did one for every story. So the Stinky Cheese Man is just the gingerbread man that my daughter loved with only one detail changed. The guy's not made out of gingerbread, he's made out of really bad smelling cheese. And it changes the whole story, because then nobody wants to chase him, right? Or this one, the really ugly duckling who grows up to be a swan. Though this was more from my teaching experience where I taught some second graders and caught up with them like 6 years later and taught them as 8th graders. So truly, here's what happens. The little really ugly duckling just grew up to be a really ugly duck. I think that's the one that freaked out people when you read this in manuscript. It's maybe a little harsh, but so true. Like those little second graders you can't stand, when they grow up to be 8th graders, oh man, you really can't stand them. Circle of trust in here though, right? Like don't spread that around. I'm not naming any names, but. Well, and then I did this whole mess of books, like I taught math for a while, so I messed around with that, being transgressive. Wrote some science parodies, because I love parody. I grew up with Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, Mad Magazine, and all that stuff really shapes you. Fractured fairy tales from Rocky and Bullwinkle. So I just thought that's what you did. You just goofed around in things. It did not make me very popular in Sister Mary Marie's religion class. She wasn't wild about my parodies or my jokes. I'm glad. I can't tell you any of those titles. Then I did some Time Warp Trio books, Trucktown for Little Guys. And then the president gave me a medal to be the ambassador, which was kind of great. And our current ambassador is here today, Miss Kate DiCamillo. Could we please give her a little, can we do a salam? Do you make people do the salam?
Hey, let's all applaud if we want John to be the ambassador again.
Oh! We can find somebody else, I think. But this was actually pretty fun because the title had never happened. So I kind of got to invent the thing. And I was out on the road with Dave Shannon, the guy who wrote the book No David. And he explained to a whole group of kindergartners that you don't just clap for the ambassador, you salam. And kindergartners, being kindergartners, were, yes, we will. And so Dave got a whole room of and I used it for the solid 2 years. You can actually look up Ambassador Salam on YouTube. And I recorded this in North Carolina. And I should have thought about it at the time. I was doing it in a church. Because it was the only space they had. And I was up on the altar, actually, and there's a huge cross behind me, and I got all these kids going like, I only noticed later in the film, Eric goes like, why did we ask him? I noticed later, like the principal's in the corner going like, but nobody got hit by lightning. Everything ended fine, mostly. Here I am just hanging around home with my medal. Kate does the same. Here's my cape, a top hat, some stuff kids made. Kids make crazy stuff. So they made me this sash, they made me this cape. And kids always want to know, like, is this a real job? And so I go, yeah, here's my car. Here's my boat, my jet, and my rocket. Because I used to tell kids the truth, like, I live in New York, I don't need a car. And then you just see kids look at you like, you suck, man. But I get a great reaction from this one. There's like a scream. And then I felt a little bad about like fooling kids too much. So I thought if I upped the stakes, like, here's my boat. And that's me driving it. And my jet and my rocket. But it still doesn't work. Because when I was over in the UK again, a kid asked during the question and answer period, he said, 3-part question. 1, why do you have a rocket? 2, where do you fly your rocket? And 3, where do you park your rocket? I was just like, wow, I love you, little kid, man. That's just like, it's so, and it's not even, it's a really kind of crappy painting of a rocket. It's not even a picture. So usually I would quickly tell them, well, my job is to write fiction. I make things up and just leave it at that. Because then the principals at the Catholic schools feel better about that. Oh, man. How did we get into this? I just want to quickly show you a little Frank Einstein, because this is another transgressive thing I love to do. One third grader, again, I love the third graders, like explained in a question and answer period too, when someone asked, like, where do you get up your ideas? And this little girl said, he just takes stuff and messes it up. It's like, yeah, that's actually a really good description. It's like 3 pigs, it's Time Warp Trio going around in time. It's this guy, Frank Einstein, who's a genius, kind of like Tom Swift, and he can invent anything. So he helps these robots make themselves, kind of like Of Mice and Men. Clank's a real hugger. Here's the bad guy, Thomas Edison. Not so loosely based on the historic Thomas Edison, who was a bit of a jerk. Stole people's things. And his assistant, Mr. Chimp. His actual assistant and chief financial officer, Mr. Chimp, who is a chimpanzee and is very strong, but also has taught himself sign language. So here's how Mr. Chimp talks throughout the whole book in chimp sign language. I don't know why, but I just love that. So the second book is now out, Frank and the Electro Finger. And I kind of am going to cover all of science in 6 books, I decided, which was maybe a bit much. I probably should have thought about that. But it's kind of this thing where I use real science and diagrams and the narration. So it's both science mixed with a narration that explains things like static electricity being the same thing as lightning. So you can make this thing like you used to torture your brother with. And then also kill those giant machines that Thomas Edison is making. So here's all 6 books. I'm going to cover science from matter to energy, humans, life, earth, and the universe. I may have to start again with Merrick's explanation of how the author started. And here's a sneak peek at the new one. Frank Einstein and the Brain Turbo. But here I wanted to end with a little of maybe the most transgressive thing I think I've ever done, which a picture book author named Mac Barnett, who also does some middle grade stuff, he and I are good friends, and we were on book tour once, and we were just amusing ourselves. So we picked up a copy of a book that we knew a friend of ours really didn't like. I don't want to name the title, but it was a cat in the library named Dewey. I didn't say the title, Lisa. She's on the floor, we lost her. So we took the book and we're driving around, and with our Sharpie pens, we just changed the story a little bit. Like we crossed out some of the words, then we made the cat with laser eyes looking at the baby in the library, gave it fangs. We thought, this is a really good book. So much better than the original. And then we thought, we should do that. We should make a book like that. And then we thought, the lady who did Dewey probably would not appreciate it. So what we had to do was write our own, is there a better word than stupid? Stupid book. Or maybe misthought book. And we thought, what is the most stereotypical, unsurprising thing? It's like the bunny who wakes up and it's his birthday. But nobody remembers it's his birthday. So he goes to all his friends and they forget his birthday. And then at the end, guess what happens? Yeah, surprise party. The least surprising thing in any one of those books. So we wrote the book. Mac and I sat down in my backyard in Brooklyn, and just our rule was you couldn't think of anything longer than like 2 seconds. we tried to just use the stupidest part of our book writing brain and just go, okay, it's a birthday party about a bunny. Who are his friends? Squirrel, crow, badger, turtle. What did they give him? Nut clock. I think that was my favorite brainstorming moment. It just came out like nut clock. Of course squirrel would have a nut clock, right? But then the tricky part was we had to get an illustrator who was new enough, who wouldn't worry that he had to actually make 2 complete books. Like Mac and I wrote the thing and then messed it up. But the guy had to paint 2 whole books. Because here's the first book, and then here's the book after the narrator, Alex, gets a hold of it. So Birthday Bunny becomes Battle Bunny. And it's kind of what we used to do as kids, like all the time. And every bookseller we ran into said, like, oh yeah, we used to do that. We did that to Madame Bovary, one lady told us. They changed it to Madame's ovaries, which I love. Or Duchamp did it. We should probably have a better reference, like Duchamp in the Mona Lisa, where he just put the mustache on her. That's funny. So we thought, this is funny. And once again, it's hilarious, transgressive, and enthusiastically taboo. I think that was from a review of this book, which I kind of loved. Because here's what happens. Grandma started it. I mean, not in a mean way. She was sweet, and she thought, oh, it's little Alex's birthday. But he's a 10-year-old. Like, he's kind of a better story reader than this, and a better illustrator himself. So Alex gets the book from Gran and just adapts it a little bit. So he turns Birthday Bunny into Battle Bunny with rockets and explosions. And there he is in the corner. Bunny is saying, obey me. And Alex says, never. And here's my own homage to Kafka and the Metamorphosis. So the Metamorphosis starts with Gregor Samsa woke up from uneasy dreams. This starts, Bunny woke up from a night of pleasant dreams. Today is a very special day, he thought. Today is my birthday. Today I'm not just a bunny. I am the Battle Bunny. Now, the one challenge of this book is it's impossible to read out loud perfectly. You need to read it as a duet. So you have to get a friend who reads the original. And we discovered this at Bank Street. Someone actually Lisa used to work with, a great librarian named Allie. And she reads the sweet version, and I read it along with her, reading the evil version. Because the text is the same until it diverges at that moment. And that's like the closest read aloud equivalent we could get to visually seeing both elements. And I loved, one little kid said, he said, it's like a mashup, or it's like a cover version, or it's like 2 things that make another third thing that's even better. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what it is. And so the whole book is like that. Here's Bunny. So the original reads, Birthday Bunny made himself his favorite breakfast, carrot juice and a bowl of carrot Krispies, which Alex then changes to, Battle Bunny made himself his favorite breakfast, brain juice and a bowl of greasy guts. And then so Mac and I made a video. We kind of modeled it on the Fancy Nancy video, which is a little creepy. Sweet, though. Ours is not so sweet. We had a big birthday party. We interviewed this kid we called Alex, and then we just smashed ourselves with cake. And then we went around to schools And they had these smash cake parties. Like kids wrote their own bunny version and then had parties. Here's Mac looking at this in the library. And I love the teachers for this because it was exactly that thing where they gave kids the trust and the confidence and said, you guys can do this. And look at this girl. She's just in heaven. Eating cake with her hands. And she wrote one of the greatest bunnies. Here's another guy. Here was Mac and I presenting the book at the Texas Library Association. I told Mac to go out and get a fancy bunny outfit. He did. He showed up. This was like at a book festival in Austin. I wish I had a picture of the guy who was the security guard, a Texas Ranger. He had like his gear on, and he was just like. I think this is beyond transgressive. And Mac was so good. He comes up in this thing. He says, "Oh man, now I feel embarrassed." I said, "Yeah, you should be." And he said, "Yeah, I wore the wrong socks." And he walked around like that most of the day. And here's the website for Bunny. So we made a website called mybirthdaybunny.com where kids can download the original and then make their own. And then we post them online. So here's just like they did one page. So this little guy turned it into Robot Bunny. This is Super Bunny. Pirate Charlie Brown Bunny, I'm not sure. Going to need therapy Bunny. I think I don't know. We never got the title for this. I just don't know. And then kids did entire books. So here's Monster Bunny, Costume Bunny, boys and girls. I mean, this was actually a thing when our publisher first said, like, this is such a boy book. I said, oh no, we got the craziest ones from the little girls. Zombie Bunny, Halloween Bunny, Minecraft Bunny, Bedtime Bunny. Man, this is the one I wish I would have written. Mac and I read this. This kid was brilliant because he said he wasn't a really good illustrator. So, and look, he crossed out our names too, put his name. And so he realized it would be easy enough to just draw a sleep mask on every bunny. Because that's kind of easy to draw. And Bunny's driving motivation for the whole story is he wants to go to sleep. And then so all his dialogue also is just Z's. Brilliant. Brilliant. Just how good is that? And the whole book is like that. And it's kind of cool because the last picture is Bunny out on his back on the hill, sleeping. Oh. So these are my fans. These are the people I write for. The enthusiastically taboo, hilarious, and transgressive people. And thanks for coming and learning too much about John Scieszka. Woo!